Okay, this is Dhammasukha Meditation Center. The sutta tonight will be the Sekha Sutta, the discipline in higher training, Abhidhamma. Today is July 15th, 2012. Thus have I heard on one occasion the Blessed One was living in the Sakyan country in Kapilavatthu in Nigroda's park. Now on that occasion a new assembly hall had recently been built for the Sakyans of Kapilavatthu, and it had not yet been inhabited by any recluse or Brahmin or human being at all. Then the Sakyans of Kapilavatthu went to the Blessed One. After paying homage to him, sat down at one side and said to him, "Venerable Sir, a new assembly hall has recently been built for the Sakyans of Kapilavatthu." These assembly halls were generally fairly important because any wandering ascetic, if they wanted to stay in town, they would go, that's where they would stay and sleep and that sort of thing. And that's where anybody that came to town that wanted to give a talk of some sort, that's where they would give the talk. And it has not yet been inhabited by any recluse or Brahmin or human being at all. Venerable Sir, let the Blessed One be the first to use it. When the Blessed One has used it first, then the Sakyans of Kapilavatthu will use it afterwards. That will lead to their welfare and happiness for a long time. The Blessed One consented in silence. Then, when they saw that he had consented, they got up from their seats, and after paying homage to him, keeping him on their right, they went to the assembly hall. They covered it completely with coverings and prepared seats and put out a large water jug and hung oil lamps. In Sri Lanka, oil lamps are real popular. Before any Dhamma talk, they make a ceremony of using the oil lamps. And it's 3 or 4 layers of very thin, not very thick, like platters. And it has oil in it, and they put a wick in it. Now this is the only light they had during the time of the Buddha. Then they went to the Blessed One. After paying homage to him, they stood at one side and said, "Venerable Sir, the assembly hall has been covered completely with coverings, and seats have been prepared. A large water jug has been put out, and an oil lamp hung up. Let the Blessed One come at his own convenience." Then the Blessed One dressed, taking his bowl and outer robe, he went with the Sangha of monks to the assembly hall. Then he arrived, he washed his feet, then he entered the hall and sat down by the center pillar facing the east. The Buddha always gave Dhamma talks facing the east. There was a study done, I think Patrick Flanagan, on the energy of the different points, cardinal points, compass points, north, south, east, west. And when you sit facing the east, you have a lot more energy. If you sit facing the north, that's the least amount of energy. Now, what's the advantage of that? When you're restless, face north. When you're kind of dulling out a little bit, face east. And believe it or not, it does make a difference. And the monks washed their feet and entered the hall and sat down on the western wall facing the east, with the Blessed One before them. And I don't remember the energy of the other two, so that's a book that I read a long time ago. They're sitting on the west, facing the east.
And he's sitting
and facing
the center, facing the east.
Right.
So he's in the center, facing the east, and here on the west, he's behind him.
In other words, they're behind him.
Oh. They're lined up behind him. Okay. That's what I was picturing. But they're not ready to go yet.
And the Sakyans of Kapilavatthu washed their feet and entered the hall and sat down by the eastern wall facing the west.
Yes.
With the Blessed One before them. Then when the Blessed One had instructed, urged, roused, and gladdened the Sakyans of Kapilavatthu with the talk on the Dhamma for much of the night, he said to Venerable Ānanda, Ānanda, speak to the Sakyans of Kapilavatthu about the disciple in higher training who has entered upon the way. My back is uncomfortable and I will rest. Now what this tells you is this was when the Buddha was getting very old. He started having back problems. And it's not that he was attached or annoyed by the pain. He just understood that his body was suffering a bit. And it didn't disturb his mind at all, but he knew if he laid down and relieved the pain in his back, then he could carry on. Yes, Venerable Sir, the Venerable Ānanda replied. Then the Blessed One prepared his patchwork cloak, folded in four, and lay down on his right side in the lion's pose. This is the lion's pose. Okay, we're taught as monks to lay on our right side. And I don't go to sleep until I lay down on my right side. I can read and be real tired, but until I put the book down and go on the right side, I don't go to sleep. But as soon as I get on my right side, I toss and turn for 5-6 seconds before I'm asleep. And then when I sleep, I don't move around very much. And your body starts to get a little achy after a while from just being on that one side. You move around a little bit, but not very much. And that's time to wake up. So it works out pretty well.
So you don't shift over to the other side then?
No.
You just stay on.
He laid down on his right side in the lion's pose, with one foot overlapping the other, mindful and fully aware, after noting his time. Now, this is a formula that Bhikkhu Bodhi used. He didn't go to sleep. He listened to Ānanda give the talk. But this is a formula that's used about the Buddha lied down, and after noting in his mind the time for rising. So that they're trying to infer that he went to sleep, but he didn't. Then the Venerable Ānanda addressed Mahanama, the Sakyan, thus: Mahanama, here a noble disciple is possessed of virtue, guards the doors of his sense faculties, is moderate in eating and devoted to wakefulness. He possesses 7 good qualities, and he is one who obtains at will, without any trouble or difficulty, the 4 jhanas that constitute the higher mind and provide a pleasant abiding here and now. The thing that makes this a little bit confusing for most people is when they're practicing jhana practice, they're practicing one-pointed concentration. And there is a very distinct difference between one-pointed concentration, what I'm showing you. That is the relaxed step. If you don't use the relaxed step often, if you don't use the 6 R's often, you will get caught by deep concentration. And it's real blissful and it's very nice. But you don't learn about how mind's attention moves from one thing to another, because your mind is glued to that object of meditation. And the force of the concentration suppresses hindrances, so there's no real personality development, because you still have the attachment of craving. And you're not able to recognize it, and you're not able to really progress in the way that the Buddha teaches. Now, when you're practicing the 6 R's, especially when you're practicing with loving kindness, your progress is very fast. You're going to be here for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. When you use the relaxed step, your progress in the meditation is very fast. When I was in Korea, I was giving a retreat for 25 people, maybe. And at the end of 2 weeks, 19 of them had gotten to neither perception nor non-perception. That's pretty fast. Especially when you consider that people practicing one-pointed concentration, they talk about years. So that relaxed step is really essential. And the smiling is very essential too. The more you smile, the lighter your mind becomes, the better your mindfulness becomes. Your mind becomes much more alert and bright and pure because you're relaxing with that. And how is a noble disciple possessed of virtue? Here, a noble disciple is virtuous. He dwells restraint with the restrained of the patimokkha. We gave you 8 precepts last night. I have 227 of them. And that's what we're talking about, is the restraint of the Patimokkha. All of the rules for the monks are called the Patimokkha. He's perfect in conduct and resort, and seeing fear in the slightest fault. He trains by undertaking the training precepts. This is how a noble disciple is possessed of virtue. Some of the rules for the monks are real easy to follow. Everybody has their shoes off. Why? Because I can't give a Dhamma talk to somebody who has their shoes on. There's like 85 or 89 rules on eating. In India, they ate with their hands. And when they got done, they started licking their hands, getting all the food off. Well, we can't do that. We can't put so much food in our mouth that our cheeks get bulged out. We can't look in another person's bowl to see what they're eating. Because we go out on alms round and everybody collects their own food. Quite often we would just give it to a kitchen and they'd just start putting the food out. But sometimes we just ate from our own bowl and that was it. Going on alms round in Burma was incredibly interesting because I happened to go to this one village for 6 weeks, and it was a poor village. I mean, they barely had enough food for themselves. But I always had enough food for 4 people because I was a big, tall Westerner, and they couldn't believe somebody like me would give up all of the wonders of being in the West to come there and be a monk. So they really supported that a lot. And I got into the habit of taking whatever food I wanted and put the rest on a tray, and then after the meal I would go take the food back to them because I felt so bad because they needed the food. But they would rather go hungry themselves than have me go hungry. And sometimes they would put in, a big day would be like 2 peanuts. Mostly it was rice. There was a farming community, but they had trouble growing a lot of vegetables and such, so there wasn't a whole lot of that kind of thing. Sometimes somebody put a couple potato chips. That was really a good day. But I never went hungry, ever. It was when I was in Rangoon, I started going out on alms round. And in Rangoon, it was a pretty rich town, and they would put everything in these little aluminum trays. And there'd be 4 or 5 stop at one house. They'd ask us to stop. I went with another monk, and they'd ask us to please come to my house so I can offer dana. He'd been going by himself, and he'd been going to 3 different houses. But as people saw us walking around, they said, well, please come to my house. Come to my house. And we started saying no at 15 because it was too much to carry. And the last place I went, this guy really, really liked me. And he was continually giving me these football-size papaya. That's hard to carry, that much food. And finally, we got an attendant to come with us. So we just loaded up on him. Anyway. And how does a noble disciple guard the doors of his sense faculties? On seeing a form with the eye, a noble disciple does not grasp at its signs and features, since if he left the eye faculty unguarded, evil, unwholesome states of covetousness and grief might invade him. What does that mean? How do you guard your eye faculty?
Sounds like you should neither search out and really look at what you're looking at, but not become ignorant either.
Well, that's almost right. When you're watching your mind and your eye hits something, you can look at it, there's no problem. But you're watching your mind because the craving can come up, I like it or I don't like it, and then you start thinking about it. And before long you're thinking about something else, and you're a long ways away. So you haven't guarded that door, you haven't guarded your mind at that door. And it's the same with all 6 sense doors. And that's how evil, unwholesome states of covetousness and grief might invade him. Because of the craving, that's an unwholesome state. And you start thinking about how much you like this flower or that flower or this bird or that bird or whatever. And then you're just taken away. You're taken out of the present moment and you're identifying with those thoughts and feelings. So, he practices the way of restraint. He guards the eye faculty. He undertakes the restraint of the eye faculty. On hearing a sound with the ear, on smelling an odor with the nose, on tasting a flavor with the tongue, on touching a tangible with the body, on cognizing a mind object with mind. A noble disciple does not grasp at its signs and features. So it doesn't matter which one of the 6 sense doors it is. You watch your mind and what it's up to.
It seems like during the last step, you put the guarding
That's right.
jeopardy. Right?
At jeopardy? Why jeopardy?
Well, because it seems like you'd have to be ready for some clinging to happen. But if something clings, you can relax and that lets go of the...
Well, but if you're really being mindful, it's not a jeopardy at all because you 6 are it. You see the feeling arise and you relax right then. Then you don't have any thoughts arise. Okay? Since if he left his mind faculty unguarded, evil, unwholesome states of covetousness and grief might invade him. He practices the way of its restraint. He guards the mind faculty, undertakes the restraint of the mind faculty. That's how a noble disciple guards the doors of his sense faculties. And how is a noble disciple moderate in eating? Here, reflecting wisely, a noble disciple takes food neither for amusement, nor for intoxication, nor for the sake of physical beauty and attractiveness, but only for the endurance and continuance of this body, for ending discomfort and for assisting the holy life, considering Thus I shall terminate old feelings without arousing new feelings, and I shall be healthy and blameless, and live in comfort. Being moderate in eating, if you eat too much, you get sleepy. Generally, after, say, your noonday meal, there's a period of time that you can be fairly alert. But you get to be about 3 o'clock and all of a sudden you start feeling a little bit drowsy. Go take a shower. Wakes you right up. All your energy is going into digesting the food. But when you take a shower, then you start to wake up your whole body, and then the sitting is good after that. Most of the time. Now, one thing with eating that you notice that I'm slow in eating. Everybody else is done and I'm still eating because I chew my food a lot. When the Buddha would eat, of course he had 40 teeth instead of 32, so that made it a little bit easier. But when he would eat, it said that not one grain of rice was swallowed before it was chewed. So the thing that you want to do is chew your food until it turns to liquid in your mouth. This will help you stay very healthy, because your digestion starts with the saliva in your mouth, so you get saliva on all of the food that you're chewing. And it's easier to digest in small pieces rather than big pieces. People that are very fat, when you watch them eat, they'll chew something 2 or 3 times and swallow. So they have these big chunks, and it takes a lot to break down these big chunks of food and causes fat to arise. So the more you chew, the more in balance you stay with your food. And how is a noble disciple devoted to wakefulness? Here during the day, while walking back and forth and sitting, a noble disciple purifies his mind from obstructive states. In the first watch of the night, while walking back and forth and sitting, he purifies his mind of obstructive states. First watch of the night is 7 o'clock until 11 o'clock. In the middle watch of the night, he lies down on his right side in the lion's pose with one foot overlapping the other, mindful and fully aware, after noting in his mind the time for rising. After rising in the third watch of the night, the middle watch is 11 to 3. When I was in Burma, that was what we all did. We took 4 hours sleep until it got to be a range retreat. Then when the range retreat came, I went in and talked to the teacher. How's your meditation going? Good, good, everything's fine. How much are you sleeping? 4 hours. Why are you so lazy? Why are you sleeping so much? Okay. So I started going to bed at midnight and getting up at 2. And I did that for 3 months. I don't recommend that for anyone. It takes I was eating 3 bowls of rice soup in the morning, and three bowls of rice in the afternoon or for the noonday meal. And I was losing weight like you couldn't believe. I mean, you want to lose weight, just stay awake. And I got, this was right before I left Burma the first time. I got down to about 58 kilos. I'm a big person. My eyes had started to sink into my head. You could see all the bones, and I was really, really skinny because of that. And when I got out of Burma, I went to, I spent a few months, 6 weeks with Venerable Buddhadasa, Ajahn Buddhadasa, at his place. But I wound up sleeping. I'd get up in the morning, go out on alms round, eat, then kind of stretch out and say, well, let's take a nap. And then I ate the noonday meal, because we were eating 2 meals a day there. And after that, let's stretch out and take a nap. And I'd wake up about 5 o'clock in the afternoon and wander around for about a half an hour, 45 minutes, and think, maybe we'll go to bed now. And I did that for a long time because I was catching up on all the sleep that I'd deprived myself from. So I don't really recommend that. And when you go to practice meditation with a lot of teachers, they want you to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And you walk around being tired all day, and they don't want you to go to bed before 11. Sometimes it's 10. But you walk around and you're not used to getting up that early. 5 is really early for some people. But if you go to sleep at 10 o'clock and you get up at 5 o'clock, that's 7 hours sleep. And then you get an hour's sleep after lunch, so you're getting 8 hours sleep. I was getting 2. And it was hard work. It was really hard work. But I've since found out sleep deprivation is one of the ways that they do mind control things. So I don't want you walking around sleepy all the time. I want you to be alert so you can keep your meditation going all the time. This is how a noble disciple is devoted to wakefulness. Now this is talking about walking back and forth and sitting, but it's not talking about necessarily about sitting in meditation. It's just sitting and watching your mind and doing other daily activities and watching. Devoting yourself to wakefulness means learning how to smile while you're doing your daily activities, learning how to watch your mind when you're doing, taking a bath, going to the bathroom, all of these different things. So this is part of the practice of learning how to do the meditation all of the time. And how does a noble disciple possess 7 good qualities? Here a noble disciple has faith. He places his faith in the Tathagata's awakening. Thus the Blessed One is accomplished, fully awakened, perfect and true knowledge and conduct, sublime knower of worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, awakened and blessed. He has shame. He's ashamed of misconduct in body, speech, and mind, ashamed of engaging in evil, unwholesome deeds. Playing cards, playing games, just generally being loose instead of disciplined. He has fear of wrongdoing. He's afraid of misconduct in body, speech, and mind, afraid of engaging in evil, unwholesome deeds. He has learned much, remembers what he has learned, and consolidates what he has learned. Such teachings as are good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end, with the right meaning and phrasing, and affirm a holy life that is perfect, utterly perfect and pure. Such teachings as these he has learned much of, remembered, recited, verbally investigated with mind, and penetrated well by view. Penetrated well by view means a harmonious perspective. Harmonious perspective means always seeing everything as being part of an impersonal process. Doesn't matter whether it's a thought, doesn't matter whether it's a feeling, sensation, whatever it is that arises. When you 6 are that, you are letting go of the craving. You're letting go of the unwholesome. And your mind stays very alert and bright. He is energetic in abandoning unwholesome states and in undertaking wholesome states. He's steadfast, firm in striving, and not remiss in developing wholesome states. Staying on your object of meditation and smiling. You're staying on wholesome states. I don't care what you're doing. Stay with your meditation as much as you possibly can. He has mindfulness, is possessed of the highest mindfulness and skill. He recalls and recollects what was done long ago and spoken long ago. Sometimes I am, sometimes I can. He is wise. Now, anytime you hear the word wise or wisdom, it's talking about the links of dependent origination. Being able to see the links of dependent origination. A lot of people that practice straight vipassana, they have this set of insight knowledges that they talk about. The insight knowledges that you get from practicing what I talk about is by seeing and recognizing how dependent origination works. By seeing and recognizing how some of your little habits that you've always done cause suffering. So you start letting that go. And it can really be a lot of oh wows. This is the influence of the Visuddhimagga with this rest of this. It says, he is wise, he possesses wisdom regarding the rise and disappearance that is noble.
What is that? Rise and disappearance.
Impermanence.
Yeah. Rise and passing away.
And penetrative, and leads to that complete destruction of suffering. Just seeing the impermanence of things does not lead to the destruction of suffering. Letting go of craving leads to the destruction of suffering. That is how a noble disciple possesses 7 good qualities. And how is a noble disciple one who attains at will, without trouble or difficulty, the 4 jhanas that constitute the higher mind, abhidhamma, and provide a pleasant abiding here and now. Here, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a noble disciple enters upon and abides in the 1st jhana. Which is accompanied by thinking and examining thought with joy and happiness born of seclusion. Now the joy you experience is called uplifting joy. It has excitement in it. And you feel very light in your mind and light in your body. Now, I was telling you before how important the hindrances are, that they arise, because that's where your attachment is. And when you see and relax and smile and come back to your object of meditation, and you get pulled back to that hindrance, and you do the same thing again, it starts getting weaker, because you're not feeding it with your attention. So it gets weaker and weaker until finally it doesn't come up anymore. When that happens, you feel a sense of relief. And joy immediately comes up. And you start thinking about, yeah, this is why I'm meditating. This is good stuff. Now, you can't hold on to the joy. Joy and pain, same coin, different sides. Treat them both in the same way. If your mind gets pulled to it too much, ignore it. Just let that joyful feeling be there without keeping your attention on it. It will fade away after a period of time. Then you will feel very strong tranquility. And you feel comfortable in your mind and in your body. This is what the Buddha called happiness. Your mind stays on your object of meditation without any effort for periods of time. Okay. With the stilling of thinking and examining thought, you enter upon the 2nd jhana, which has self-confidence and stillness of mind, without thinking and examining thought, with joy and pleasure born of collectedness. When you get to the 2nd jhana, you start feeling like you really are understanding more easily how this process works, and you start getting confidence. And the confidence starts carrying into your daily activities because you're able to watch that more easily. The joy you experience is much lighter And as a matter of fact, it can be so light that you feel like you start floating. This is in your mind and your body. When that joy fades away, you feel tranquility and very comfortable in your mind and your body. Your mind stays on your object of meditation for a longer period of time without much effort at all. Then your mindfulness, for whatever reason, starts to get weak. Now you have another hindrance to work with. Okay? With the fading away of joy, one enters upon second, that's the second. Yeah. You abide with equanimity, mindful and fully aware, still feeling happiness with the body. You enter upon and abide in the third jhana, on account of which noble ones announce, he has a pleasant abiding who has equanimity and is mindful. So joy doesn't come up anymore. It's too coarse a feeling. By now you're probably sitting with your object of meditation without being distracted for 7 minutes, 8 minutes, like that. You feel really comfortable in your body. As you go deeper into this, your mind has this very nice balance. And if there is contact at one of the sense doors, like somebody comes up with a motorcycle, you'll hear it, but it doesn't make your mind shake. You'll know it was there. You know it was a sound. But your mind doesn't like it or dislike it. It just says, okay, that's there for right now. As you lose tension in your mind, you start losing tension in your body. And when you lose tension in your body starts to disappear. You might not feel your hands or your legs or your shoulders or whatever. Now, when you're practicing loving kindness, what happens is the feeling of loving kindness starts to move and it starts to go up into your head. Don't push it back down. Let it be there. Again, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, with the previous disappearance of joy and grief, you enter upon and abide in the fourth jhana, which has neither pain nor pleasure, and purity of mindfulness due to equanimity. When you get to the fourth jhana, then I will tell you to change your object of meditation. When you get to the fourth jhana, your mind has very strong balance in it. You'll be able to sit for 10 or 15 minutes without any distraction at all. And this is where you'll change to start radiating in the 6 directions, in front and back, right, left, up, down, and then all directions at the same time. When you get to the fourth jhana, that is when you are considered to be an advanced meditator. That is how a noble disciple is one who attains at will, without trouble or difficulty, the 4 jhanas that constitute the higher mind and provide a pleasant abiding here and now. When a noble disciple is thus become one who is possessed of virtue, who guards the doors of his sense faculties, who is moderate in eating, who is devoted to wakefulness, who possesses 7 good qualities, who obtains at will without any difficulty the 4 jhanas that constitute the higher mind, and provide a pleasant abiding here and now, he is called one in higher training, who has entered upon the way. His eggs are unspoiled. He is capable of breaking out, capable of awakening, capable of attaining the supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Now, it's real interesting. There used to be a book that was called A Crack in the Cosmic Egg. I don't know, there was a book in the 60s. I don't know if any of you would run across this. But basically, that's what I'm showing you. I'm putting a crack in your egg. And you have to do the work to get out of the egg. But I'll put the crack in it so that you really do, by the time you get done here, you really, truly will understand a lot. Suppose there were a hen with 8 or 10 or 12 eggs, which she had covered, incubated, and nurtured properly. Though she did not wish, that my chicks might pierce their shells with the points of their claws and beaks, and hatch out safely, yet the chicks are capable of piercing their shells with the points of their claws, beaks, and hatching out safely. So when a noble disciple has thus become one who is possessed of virtue, and is called one in the higher training, who has entered upon the way, his eggs are unspoiled, he is capable of breaking out, capable of awakening, capable of attaining the supreme security from bondage, nibbana. Based upon that same supreme mindfulness, whose purity is due to equanimity, this noble disciple recollects his past lifetimes. Now, what we're talking about here is once you get to the 4th jhana, I prefer to teach you to go through the arupa jhanas, the immaterial realms. But what he's talking about here is, this is called the Tvija. I couldn't think of it. These are called the 3 super knowledges. This is the way the Buddha attained Nibbana on the night of his awakening. And many, many monks during that time did exactly that way. And it has to do with remembering your past lifetimes. And there's a lot of lessons in remembering your past lifetimes. And after that, your mind will settle down a little bit more, and then you will develop what's called the divine eye. And you'll be able to see other realms. You'll be able to see heavenly realms, you'll be able to see hell realms. And you'll be able to visit all of these different realms and actually talk with the beings in those realms. And that's called the divine ear. You start to recognize more and more how dependent origination actually does work, and you start to see that in all of the different beings, whether they're in a hell realm or not, or whether they're in a heavenly realm or not, or Brahma Loka, whatever. And you start to get dispassionate towards everything. And after a while, you become dispassion means seeing how everything works and never taking it personally. Just seeing it. And you don't have any, it's there. It's okay that it's there. Doesn't matter whether it's there or not. This is like the highest form of equanimity, is dispassion. So what happens is you start looking at how dependent origination really does work. And you start going deeper and deeper in your meditation. And then there is what is called the cessation of perception, feeling, and consciousness. Just like turning off the light. There's nothing. You don't even know you're in it until you get out of it. When you get out, you see the links of dependent origination, how they arise and how they cease. Now, dependent origination is cause and effect. Each link causes the next one to arise, the next one to arise. And when you cease, you get down to formations. There's nothing else that arises. There are no more conditions. So you get into the unconditioned state. This is how you attain Nibbana. But I teach it a different way.
Yeah, I had a question about that. You're in the fourth jhana and you're going through the realms, and then you start to see this all happen. Do you pass through jhanas at that point, or you just
No.
Oh,
No.
I got it. And cessation. So that leads me to say, well, there's a huge benefit to the way you're teaching it, because you won't be going up the chart here using the other method if you're not very good at it, and go immediately, go all the way. I mean, you'll get.
Well, see, the thing is, when I was in Asia, I used to call that fast track. Going through, seeing the past lifetimes and seeing the arising and passing away of beings in the different realms, and then seeing the letting go of all the taints. But since coming back here to this country, it's not the fast track, because people get very much attached. And there's some real pride that starts to happen. I can remember, I've seen people that tell me how many past lifetimes they can remember. I can remember 231 past lifetimes. Well, if you're counting them, you're not really paying attention. I had students in Malaysia that they could see a Mahakapa. A Mahakapa is an incredibly long period of time. Many, millions of lifetimes. And the people here think they're hot stuff because they can see. I can see 114. But they tend to make a big deal of it, and then they get attached to it. And they're identifying with each of these lifetimes like it was really them. So it's not the fast track in this country. It's a fast track over there.
Make himself a snack.
Anyway. When you get to a certain level of understanding, Nibbana will happen by itself. But there has to be very, very strong dispassion. It's like standing out here and watching this movie happen, but never getting involved in the movie. It's just there. So it's just letting it be there and backing away further from it. Getting out of the way continually. And don't you forget it. Well, I can say the same to you.
Oh, of course. Oh, I'm saying, stop. Wow.
Get out of the way.
Yeah, but
That's
it's,
one.
you know, the movie thing is a really good analogy because you can be sitting in a movie theater, totally wrapped up in the movie.
Yeah.
And if you say, "No, here I am sitting in the movie theater," I mean, it really
I'm just why there's
Yeah.
just these things that are happening,
Yeah.
and sometimes they make sense and sometimes they don't.
Yeah. Just, real mindfulness of watching the movement going, and it's not yours. So.
Right. This is his first breaking out like that of the hen's chicks from their shells. Based upon the supreme mindfulness whose purity is due to equanimity with the divine eye which is purified and surpasses the human. This noble disciple sees beings passing away and reappearing. That's what I was talking about. And understands how beings pass according to their own actions. This is his second breaking out. Like well, it's probably happened a few times. Okay, based upon that supreme mindfulness, whose purity is due to equanimity, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, this noble disciple here and now enters upon and abides in the deliverance of mind and deliverance by wisdom that are taintless with the destruction of the taints. This is the third breaking out like that of the chicks, hen's chicks from their shell. When a noble disciple is possessed of virtue, that pertains to his conduct. When he guards the doors of his sense faculties, that pertains to his conduct. When he's moderate in eating, that pertains to his conduct. When he's devoted to wakefulness, that pertains to his conduct. When he possesses 7 good qualities, that pertains to his conduct. When he is one who obtains at will, without trouble or difficulty, the 4 jhanas that constitute the higher mind and provide a pleasant abiding here and now, that pertains to his conduct. When he recollects his manifold past lifetimes with their aspects and particulars, that pertains to his true knowledge. When with the divine eye. He sees beings passing away and reappearing, and understands how beings pass on according to their actions. That pertains to his true knowledge. When, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, he here and now enters upon and abides in the deliverance of mind and deliverance by wisdom that are taintless with the destruction of the taints, that pertains to his true knowledge. This noble disciple is thus said to be perfect in true knowledge, perfect in conduct, perfect in true knowledge and conduct. And this stanza is uttered by the Brahma Samkumara, Sanankumara. The noble clan is held to be the best of people as to lineage, but best of gods and humans is one perfect in true knowledge and conduct. Now that stanza was well sung by this Brahmin, not ill sung. It was well spoken, not ill spoken. It has meaning, it's not meaningless, and it is approved by the Blessed One. Then the Blessed One rose and addressed the Venerable Ānanda. Good Ānanda, it is good that you have spoken to the Sakyans of Kapilavatthu about the discipline of higher training who has entered upon the way. That is what the Venerable Ānanda said. The teacher approved. The Sakyans of Kapilavatthu were satisfied and delighted in Ānanda's words. So the more you can use your 6 R's, smile and have fun, the easier things become. Got any questions?
So, what's the difference in the 8th jhana, the way you teach and the way we learn it, versus the 1-point concentration? It's the same.
You'll never experience the cessation of perception, feeling, and consciousness because you still have craving in your mind, even though it's suppressed by the force of the concentration.
How do you get the 8th jhana then? At all?
It's
Does it just have a whole different definition of what it is?
It is a different definition, yes. The 1-pointed concentration is doing this, and what you're doing is this.
Yeah, well, it goes like that, but with 8th jhana,
Well,
it's in a relaxed way, but stuff falls away.
yeah.
But the mind is still open.
Right. See, the thing that when I was in Burma, they were always downplaying jhana and, oh, you can never attain nibbana with jhana. And what they're saying is true, the way they're practicing it. They say that you get into jhana, especially the higher jhanas, so you can gain psychic abilities.
We got enough problems with that.
Well, it'd be kind of fun to walk through mountains and trees and walls and stuff. Fly in the air, walk on the water. There was a story that I read about the monks in Sri Lanka got so good at flying in the air that the farmers started complaining because their shadows were they're keeping the sun off the plants. That's a lot of monks flying around. I don't know whether I believe that or not.
Air traffic control.
I've only had one student that actually could levitate. One out of maybe 3,000. When I saw him, he was just going about that high off the ground. But he couldn't sit underneath one of these fans. But there's all kinds of interesting psychic things that you can do. Read other people's minds, except that's boring. Nobody thinks anything worth, well, what do I want to read your mind for? You haven't got anything worth reading.
Read Bear's mind.
There you go. Food. Yeah, well, there you go.
Okay. Any question? You look like you got one. Come on, Drew.
I don't know if it's well formed. That's the hesitation.
Okay.
I was just curious about the realizing for himself with direct knowledge, and then the aspects of abides in the deliverance of mind, what those mean.
Well, the deliverance of mind is talking about nibbana. And deliverance by wisdom means seeing the links of dependent origination. What was the other one?
By realizing for himself with direct knowledge. So,
I can talk to you about it all day, but you won't know it. You have to do it with direct knowledge. You have to understand this is how mind actually does work. This is one of the problems when you get involved with intellectuals, because they place so much emphasis on their ability to think. But thinking is so slow compared to direct knowledge, it's unbelievable. So I you sometimes get real frustrated being around monks that they only do their study. And they try to intellectualize what it is. And when they talk about it, no, it's wrong. How do you know it's wrong? Because I've seen it. And they don't accept that as good enough. Because if they can't think about it, it's just a very peculiar thing. It's like there's one sect of, well, I guess it's in Vietnam mostly, but it might be in Japan. It's called Pure Land Buddhism, and they're talking about the Pure Land, and all you have to do is repeat this word over and over and over and over again, and you will be reborn there, and that's better than any heaven anywhere. And from there you'll attain Nibbana. Well, that's a misinterpretation of the realms of Anagami. But the intellectuals they love that stuff. And they even though you can straighten them out, they don't take it. They don't believe it. So the real pure lands are become an Anagami through your direct experience. Then you got it. I'm about ready to cut his tail off. I'm getting really tired of it. It's like a whip.
I have a question about the student who could fly. He or she didn't want to be under a fan because they couldn't control it.
Well, they were sitting in meditation, and they didn't purposely want to.
He's not roped his foot into the theater. Shame.
Levitated while it was sitting, not standing.
He could do it either standing or sitting. And it's because of the joy, the uplifting joy. Pretty amazing. But when something like that happens for some of my students, it's really a lot more work for me to get them convinced that it's nothing. Stop doing it. Actually, there's three ways of attaining Nibbana. By going through all of the first four jhanas, each way is that. And then it branches off into three different ways. One of them is by going through all of the arupa jhanas, which is the way that I prefer to teach. Another way is by getting to the fourth jhana and going through your past lifetime, seeing the rising and passing away of beings, and then you attain Nibbana. And the other way is getting to the fourth jhana and then going through psychic stuff. Now, it depends on the person. Even the people that are really, really sensitive to feeling, I generally talk them into going through the arupa jhanas instead of having to go through their psychic stuff, because that slows down the progress amazingly, and they start thinking they're hot stuff. You know, watch this, and walk through a wall or something like that, and then they start getting a reputation and they stop their progress.
What are they practicing at that point?
They're not really doing it on purpose. It just happens. And then once it happens the first time, then they start figuring out how to do it over and over again. And people that have psychic ability,
So they're working on this.
yeah,
That might
they
be another one.
yeah. The people that have psychic ability are very hard to teach, because they're the kind of personality that they pick up other people's thoughts and they think they're their thoughts, and they get highly emotional. And you know, you have to teach people the difference between picking up somebody else's thoughts and feelings and your own, and being able to have some degree of control over what feeling they are having at the time. Not worth it. I had 3 or 4 in Malaysia all at the same time, and they were keeping me so busy it was unbelievable.
Look what I can do, look what I can do.
Yeah.
The next thing.
And then I say, who's doing what? And I have to convince them that this is nothing. It's just 6R this. It's nothing. Let it be. Let it go. Don't pay attention to it.
Flying off.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Anyway, let's share some merit. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.